a lot of that older generation doesn't realise they have knowledge because it hasn't been labelled as culture or language, but they know what tree to use when they're doing this, they know the best fishing spots, they know this, they know that, and so just letting them know as well, like, that is knowledge, that is culture.
It's strong.
Yeah, and that empowers them to go, oh, I do know something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yamagavabuliagu, Naya Gid, Cathy Trindall, Gomeroi Madayina, Wallabayega Nuridampa, Blue Dangunion, Nadabaradi, Naringlala, Walaylana, Tamworth Atungaga, Naya Winangai, Gadigal of the Aurora Nuru, Governinda Madan and Governinda Malia and Governinda Dian. Yama, hello everyone. My name's Cathy Trindall and I'm a very proud Gomeroi Mariti Yina from northwestern New South Wales. I'm also the chairperson of the New South Wales Aboriginal Languages Trust, and it's an honour and a privilege to be here today on this beautiful country. And I also acknowledge the carers and custodians of this beautiful country and their care and custodianship of this sovereign and unceded homelands. And we're here to have a bit of a yarn around the table on Aboriginal Languages Week, and the theme this year is Let Our Voices Fly, and I think it's an absolutely beautiful theme. And for me personally, language means who I am. It centres me, it tells me my place of belonging, and it places me in my place of belonging. Very proud to come from the black soil plains of Narrabri, but living on-country in a little place called Atunga, just outside of Tamworth. So, Nancy, can I ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you?
My name's Nancy Pattison, and I'm a proud Dainghatti woman from South West Rocks. And I guess to be the theme for, you know, our language trust in letting our voices fly, I think is a really important message that we're giving to our communities in, you know, speaking our language but not being afraid to speak our language. So thankful to be a part of this session this morning.
Wonderful. And what about you, Temicka?
Proud Paakantyi Wimpchinungu from Menindee, New South Wales. And I'm really privileged to be here at this yarn today.
You're welcome. Sharnae?
I'm Sharnae Smith. I'm a proud Anaiwan Kamilaroi woman. I'm very grateful to be here today. It's my first time and I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, wonderful. What about you, Rob?
Yidnabarung, Robert Salt, proud Muruwarri Dubbo man. 2 languages I've been speaking for a long time from my mother's tongue, Muruwarri, and also Wiradjuri. And I'm very appreciative and very humbled to be sitting at this table with yourselves. So I'm looking forward to us yarning over the next hour or so.
Thank you. Jacob?
Yeah, with that, my name is Jacob Morris. I'm proud Gammea Dharrawal man from Shoalhaven, South Coast, New South Wales. And yeah, honoured and privileged to be here to represent language and represent my family as well.
Wonderful. And Jacob, what does language mean to you?
Everything. It's who I am, it's identity, but also for me it's responsibility. I was lucky enough to be given language as a young lad, and everything is done for me. I understand it's responsibility to give that to the younger ones that don't have someone in their family to speak. So yeah, it's responsibility to share what was given to me.
Wonderful. And Rob, what about you? What does it mean? Because you said that you've got coming from 2 language groups. So what does that mean? And a bit about your history in terms of your connection to language.
Sure. It's very empowering. It can strengthen not only myself but other people's identity. My journey started when I was about 10 years old, listening to my great-grandfather Jimmy Barker's audio tapes. He was a gentleman, on a mission, by himself, recording these tapes. I could hear the sound of rain in the tapes. I could hear people come into his tin shack and just say, "Oh, Uncle, what are you doing?" And he was saying, "I'm recording the Muruwarri language." And he passed away 2 years before I was born, so it's quite a surreal empowering experience. Like a lot of us, just learnt language by myself. 10 years old, I didn't really have a lot of language speakers around me. And then as I got older, I found out very strongly connected Wiradjuri language, which I slightly knew when I was a kid, so I started learning Wiradjuri language, which is really empowering. And yeah, it strengthens not only my connection to Muruwarri and Wiradjuri country, but it's nice about a yarn to other people in language, and also to just joke around and talk about other people in language, and you know what I mean. It's good because no one understands. There's not a lot of Muruwarri speakers, so you can yarn to like my son or uncle, and just gossip and yarn without people knowing, because there's not many speakers of Muruwarri. So it's fun in that aspect. But yeah, I'm very and I carry on traditions from time again of people that spoke this language, and yeah, I'm very humbled to be able to speak fluid both languages, and I'm still learning. I spent time in Gomeroi country, your beautiful country, for about 9 years, and I really learnt the Gomeroi language, some words, so yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And like Jacob said, it's a responsibility. So how do you feel about the responsibility that you carry as a very young person to...
Yeah, so during like my studies up in Brisbane, I went to an Aboriginal Centre Performing Arts, and up there was a lot of my friends that like knew their songs, their dances, their language, and I was one of the people that didn't know anything. So once I'd finished my studies, come back home, that's when I started learning my local language, because my dad, my mum, my nan, my grandparents didn't know their language, so I'm kind of the first person in our immediate family that started to learn it. And as I'm learning, I'm teaching my son. So he's growing up learning it. Yeah, so I'm teaching it while he's growing. It's a bit emotional, but yeah, so just want to pass it down. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, so for myself, language, I guess, is important, and like Sis said, it's passing down to the next generations. But also the work that I do with language is through song and dance. So similar, but you know, getting the kids to understand what they're singing and what they're dancing about in language, and having that connection to language, and knowing that that language is from our country. So when we're dancing and we're performing, we're actually dancing and performing, but singing the language of our country. So that's really important to me in how I share language in my little community at South West Rocks.
It's beautiful because when we think of language, it's not just the spoken. It comes in so many different forms, you know, it comes in the dancing and the arts and the crafts and everything that's in there. So what do you do on country to engage in language through those sorts of different ways?
Well, going on off the dancing, like grew up not knowing dancing as well. So I was very grateful to have the opportunity to create the first Anaiwan dances back home, like to choreograph them. So that's like a really proud thing that I've done as well. So get to teach that, pass that down for generations and generations. It's going to be there for the rest of forever.
Yeah. Jacob, you're a dancer too, aren't you?
Yeah, the same thing. We grew up very lucky to have the Dunwich dancers, Uncle Bobby McLeod, who went around and got dancers from different mobs around Australia and then brought them home. And if we didn't do that, we'd never grow up seeing any song and dance. And then, because I was lucky enough to have language from my great-grandmother and my nanny, same thing. I was like, oh, we're going to put dance into our language. And it's singing your country in your language. It's the best. And so I got taught from Warren Foster too that when you're actually doing that, you're waking the country up. You're waking the old people up. So there's nothing more effective than taking the kids out, speaking language, doing song and dance, and also hearing the country, hearing the kids laugh or even cry when they get roused on or hurt themselves. It's putting the people back into the country, and I think it's vital to do.
Beautiful. You really captured that really beautifully in terms of we are singing and dancing for Gunima, for Mother Earth, and awakening her, and which, you know, in some places it hasn't been done for so many years in terms of what's happened. But, you know, that connection to country is just so important. And I'll ask you, how is language connected to country, and how do you work with that at home, what you do across country?
I think, you know, when you see country, like back home, Far West New South Wales, we have a really beautiful country out there, and I think when you see it and you hear the stories in English, it is beautiful, but then once you get it in language, you're getting that extra layer of the story, the underlayer, you're getting the full understanding. You are the country is you. You know, we have the Barker, that's our lifeline, that's us. We are the Barker is us. And I think if you were to say that with just the word river, it's not as special or meaningful, you know, because as an Aboriginal person, we always have that connection to country, and it's not about what time we learn language or when we do get language, but as soon as we do hear that language word, we just know it. Our body knows it, our mouth knows it, our tongue knows it. It just resonates with us, and it is because language is who we are.
It is, definitely. And it's interesting, languages have sometimes been silent for many reasons, you know, through legislation and government not allowing us to speak language. And we're forever grateful for our elders in those tapes that are out there in the archives that can actually re-engage us back into it. So have you experienced silence of language, and how have you rebirthed it?
My grandmother was removed from Muruwarri, 7 years old, went to taken to Cootamundra Girls' Home. Spent about a few years there, went back to Muruwarri. Throughout all my adult life, I've never heard her speak language. She did tell us, you know, when they were speaking language as kids, they'd be, you know, literally whipped. And then we all heard about the soap in the mouth, so I was able to get little bits and pieces of words from her in her later life. And she was a fluent speaker, so that was really saddened. And we tried to sort of really encourage and then to record language, but she's very, I suppose, shame, and that comes from being a 7-year-old young girl, literally being brainwashed not to speak language, and that's a common story for all of us. So yeah, that still resonates with me, and then passed on a few years ago, so a little bit saddened that particular story. As I said, it's common across not only New South Wales but Australia, where that not allowing of language to be spoken, and it really stopped a couple of generations for our language, and only in the last few years we've sort of been able to strengthen and revive our language through my great-grandfather's audio tapes and a few other key speakers that have passed through knowledge and through the family.
Yes, it's an interesting journey for a lot of our communities, and I'm thinking, you know, what are your views on having a designated week for languages? Is it important for us mob to be able to celebrate languages during a languages week, and why? You know, why is it?
It's a start. You know, we talk about NAIDOC week being like it's a week, but for us, especially in the language space as well, it's all day, every day. We sleep, we dream language. So it's a start, but I think for us it's something that we want to be all day, every day, and something celebrated and supported across, not just on a certain week where you get some banners and things like that and a bit of funding. It should be all day, every day around Australia and every community.
Yeah, 100%.
I think too, like it's, you know, during NAIDOC week we might have a language workshop here and there, and you only get a little snippet of what that language is, but to have a whole week celebrating it, it's so special, and to show the kids, like, you know, they might not get out and see other languages. They, you know, some of the kids only think that the only language spoken is our language, Paakantyi. So to show them that other mobs and other kids are doing their languages, I think it will empower our own communities to show what others are doing out there too.
And I guess languages opens up a whole different discussion, because as Nancy said, in your country where you're teaching language, you invite everyone. But there are a lot of communities across country who, because of what's happened, as you told us about your grandmother being taken away, there are a lot of places and community that say we should be the custodians, we should only be teaching it to our mob. What are your thoughts on that?
One thing that they do say is we teach our mob first and we teach our kids first, and then once we do that, we will bring it across to everyone, and we're at that time now where I think it will start coming across to everyone. But in my classes I see it, and I see my kids, like our Aboriginal kids, and they stand up, they are the leaders, they are the teachers of their language, or even if it's not their language, but they are, like, you know, because language and culture go side by side, so they are the teachers of that. And then on NAIDOC week we come all together and they, you know, they're teaching their mates or their friends or their teachers, and so they're doing the job, they are, and that's where we want them to be those up on this pedestal.
I think it's a balancing act. I got taught from my uncle who taught me, he goes, our people are the first ones to speak, and then once we speak we can teach everyone, but we've had to find a balance to get into schools especially. Unfortunately, when you go to the schools, you know, it's a lot easier to get in to work with the kids if you have inclusive programs. And so we've played the game, was like, all right, we'll go in to the mainstream thing and introduce language to non-Indigenous kids. And then we have a little program where we go, all right, now we're teaching our kids language. And so everyone gets to experience it. But it is important teaching non-Indigenous people, at least introducing them and making it so they're not strangers. You know, even when I was at school, it was still, lads ashamed to be blackfella, you know, and now there's kids running around, oh, I wish I was Aboriginal, you know, and that's mad. Like, I've got kids from Middle Eastern background, Indian, they walk around, Uncle Jack, Uncle Jack, and yeah, and that's because they get to do a bit of language and get to have a dance with us, and they're not, it's not, oh, it's Aboriginal stuff over there and we're over here. It's something that we can sort of come together and have a little balance there.
Yeah, and Auntie Cathy, I think as well, you know, with our Kuru kids, you know, or our Guru kids, making sure that they have that connection with their other classmates, you know, so they feel empowered, and also it's a reconciliation, it's connection. It's connection of all of them on their country. So that's why it's important that they learn as well on that journey of language.
I think too, when non-Aboriginal people are coming to learn the language or wanting to learn the language, like, for us it runs deep, so I think they've just got to remember too that language isn't an instrument that we just pick up and learn and play one day and it's so cool, can you teach us how you do that? Like, I think it's Aboriginal languages are a lot different from learning Italian or things like that, you know, like Aboriginal people, we like to take you out in country, or you learn this word, you get the story with it. It's not just I want to learn that, now let me get up and stand and do it. Like, you've got to go through the process and the protocols with it.
I fully agree. The question was asked earlier about connection between language and country. My journey, I found it more empowering and probably easier to learn when I'm on the country from the language I learned. For example, when I was learning Wiradjuri, it was important to go on Wiradjuri country. Muruwarri, I often go back home. I often go home to Warrana, Willimaringal, Cootamundra, Cunnamulla, sorry, and learn on country. And I know a lot of our mob can't do that. Some have been removed, some live off country due to work, so they're learning online or off country. But I would probably encourage anyone learning their language to go on the country and at least spend some time a weekend, regular trips. That's my advice to people, connection between language and country, because it's contextualised to that country.
I think on country one as well, I think that for a lot of people that think that means they have to go out bush. We're on country right now. You're under the stars, you're on country. You see that bird, you're on country. So having that, changing that perspective as well, just to go, I'm on my country whenever. If I'm in Sydney, it's not my country, but it's still country. And so I think flipping that is important as well, because then people that can't get out to the bush, you walk a river, go swimming, they go, oh, I can't go on country, I can't learn. So if you can see the stars, if you can hear the birds, see the trees, you're on country, you know. And under all this concrete, there's still my birth under all that dirt, under concrete too.
That's a really good statement, because I used to always say that, like today I'd say I'm off country, but my youngest son would say to me, "No, Mum, you're always on country. You're just a visitor to this country, to this place, and visitor to this time," and that's how I look at it. In terms of, you've mentioned learning language on country and the significance of that. Do we have enough knowledge holders and teachers out there to be able to do that? And if we do, that's great. And if we don't, how can we bring the younger ones in to actually help to continue that story?
We be straight out with them and tell them, you know, this is all I got.
Okay.
And if you want more, then you need to be the ones to chase it, because I got this because I chased it and hounded the uncles and aunties and annoyed them. What's this? What's that? What do you call this? What do you do with this one? And because I'd done that, I could do this now. But we tell the kids, like, the job's it's not even halfway done. We've got so much we need to do. And so you sort of tell them, inspire them, like, you need to do this as well now. You're part of this cycle, this journey. You're not just sitting there and getting all the knowledge. One day you're going to be the one up there talking and teaching as well. So let them know that full picture is like, this is all we got because it was taken. You know, I don't like using the word lost, because it's not lost, it was taken. And it's all come from the earth and country anyways. So yeah, I think we be straight out with them and tell them that this is what we can do for now. And if we want to get further, then it's on them to really step it up, you know. And you see them rise up and they accept that challenge, you know. And I think that is really important, because then we're saying it's a forever journey, you know.
I've been teaching my younger siblings at Menindee, and, you know, watching my little brother, he's only 4 years old, going on to big school next year, and watching how much he's thrived in the language and how much he has learnt, and it's just so normal to him. And watching, you know, when we're in the language class where he can flip between, like he's bilingual, and I think just normalising that, like, you know, with the younger ones, just making it normal, because even dance, like, he didn't practice the dance and the bigger kids were in doing corroboree, and he just got in there and he followed along and did it, and he wasn't shame at all with that. So I think normalising it as much as we can, and then when they come up, it will just be done. We won't have to.
Yeah, while they're young. Get them while they're young,
And I think having, like, the, you know, the Aboriginal Trust, and having that focus where they're focusing on our communities in language, because if we didn't have that, we're not having anybody saying, hey, language is really important. You know, our schools need to be teaching language, or our communities need to be speaking language. But also we recognise those, I guess, youth or children that are the next language teachers, you know. We see the strength in that.
And that goes back to what you were saying, like, got to be more firm with, because, like, when I get old, who's going to teach it next? So, like, that's your responsibility to learn that so it can keep going. Like,
And languages and culture are intertwined. It's who we are. It's for me, it's my identity, as I said before. Is there a right place to teach languages? You know, we've talked about looking at the schooling system, and there's curriculum that allows you to teach it. But when we talk about methodology in terms of teaching language, and Rob, you've mentioned, well, we've all mentioned it to be on country, but how do we take in language the best way? Like, what's the best way of learning that language? Is there a process of learning language? And are there any more resources that need to be around for it to grow?
The more normalised it is and surrounding the kids, the more they hear in language, the more they're going to speak. And also for our kids, the more people in their family speaking, like my uncle who taught me language, I idolised him. He was my role model, he was my father person. And so I wanted to impress him. And how I impressed him was learning language, doing culture. And so the more of us doing that, it really helps it, because it's not just at school. It's not just with this certain person. It's around them all day, every day. And I think one thing we have to keep in mind is that this is a new space for all of us. This has never been done in Australia, let alone the world, trying to bring these languages back. So we do have to go down a track and find out it is a dead end. and not just if someone's walking a different track from you, you go, oh, you're wrong because I'm doing it this way, because no one really knows yet. So we have to find out what works and what doesn't work to find that balance.
Exactly.
And adapting as well to, you know, our young children, our young people, you know, their connection now with social media and the internet, how we're getting language on those kind of platforms where they're always on there, you know, on their phones. So how are we getting it also? Also with the connection to country, but we're knowing that they're always on their devices. So how can we get the language that is showing up in those spaces as well?
That's where, like, when I first started working here, I was like, no, we have to make a TikTok because all the kids are on TikTok. So I'm like, we're making a TikTok. So we've got a TikTok with Anaiwan language. You'll probably see my face up there all the time. And then, yeah, just teaching words, you know, words that you can use every day and the animals and stuff.
What's the name of the TikTok handle?
Reviving Anaiwan.
Reviving it. I'll check it out later.
Reviving Anaiwan on TikTok, and we're getting a lot of, like, our followers are just going up each week, and a lot of family and mob off country are like really appreciative that there's something on the internet where they can learn and teach just small things, you know, little snippets, 3 like 10-second videos helps. And it's just getting out there.
I just want to share a point that I'm really passionate and strongly about. I know a lot of focus is on children in early childhood and schools. I'm 51, I didn't have the opportunities to learn language in my generation. And I'm a very strong advocate of just ensuring that we have opportunities for people, Aboriginal people 40 years and older that never had the opportunity. And also there is, I'm not saying a lot, but there is some of our youngsters that not engaged at school, you know, 14, 15, 16 where I come from, so they're not having that access to language if they were in school. So I just want to make sure that we do think of creative, engaging and relevant ways across our different communities in New South Wales how to teach language for people, older people like myself and the youngsters that are just probably just not as engaged.
Well, just following on with that, like my pop, when he was growing up and he went to TAFE, he had a bad thing with it. His teacher said to him to teach her some lingo, and he said, I don't know any, and she said, well, you're not really a black fella then, are you? So he still holds that, and even when we talk about it today, like I can still hear the emotion in his voice and everything like that. So for me doing language, it was my responsibility to, you know, teach Pop that language and try and heal that trauma that he has. So when I really talk about language, and I really come from that place of, you know, like it is who I am, I hold that trauma, I hold all that stuff, and my one goal is to, you know, teach Pop and build that bridge that he had lost. But when we do our community lessons, like that's what we do, and we try and bring like them around. He didn't want to come, he got shame, and I said, no, like come, because, you know, like it's not, we're just sitting around yarning and see, you know, like I think the biggest thing is to ask them what they remember, whether it's language or whether it's the Aboriginal English, you know, bringing the Aboriginal English into it, because that's a lot of what they had, or asking them the stories or the cultures or things that they remember, and, you know, and then when we bring that into our lessons, or we do that in our speeches or things like that, it really does bring it for them, like it really does mean a lot to have that.
Well, I think that links back to what you were saying before about sometimes not having enough knowledge holders in country. I think a lot of that older generation doesn't realise they have knowledge because it hasn't been labelled as culture or language, but they know what tree to use when they're doing this, they know the best fishing spots, they know this, they know that, and so just letting them know as well, like, that is knowledge, that is culture.
It's strong.
And that empowers them to go, oh, I do know something, you know, because it's that double-edged sword when the nans and pops see their grandchildren speaking language, dancing, and they tear up because I never got to do that, but they're also so proud that their babies get to do it. And so just going back to them and going like, use it. Or there's that many knowledge in community, but a lot of people don't label it as culture or knowledge. It's just, oh, it's just fishing, or it's just bush stuff. It's like, that's what culture is for us on the South Coast.
And it's those old people, it's the old fellas, like back home. My nan, she was so scared of doing language classes and learning, and she was, when she did her first language session, like, you'd ask her, what's this word? And she knows it, but she's too scared to speak it. Yeah, and like after each session, like she's getting more confident with saying the words and remember them, like she's getting to connect to that too. So it's nice to see the old people.
The policy of assimilation and indoctrination, it happened during a certain, decade or two in our history, but it's still reverberating through history today, hence my grandmother and your relative as well, where the language is in the mind, but when you're a kid, literally being flogged or told, language is primitive and various other words that I won't share, it carries through the generations. And it sometimes for my grandmother, she was scared even to speak language, and she died when she was 81. So it made me both saddened to hear that, but I was very fortunate to hear some words, and I actually wrote them down when I was young. And we got her to record on the old-fashioned audio recorder back in the days, a few years ago. But yeah, it's sort of nice that we've got a little bit of Nan's language. Her Muruwarri language is a bit slightly different to great-grandfather Jimmy Barker, because they're from different clans from within Muruwarri. So it's nice that there's slight variations that we've able to capture in our family.
Very much so. And the theme for Aboriginal Languages Week is to speak, connect and to fly. And exactly what you've talked about, it's about connecting with one another and connecting with that language space, which has always been there. You only have to walk out and you can hear the birds calling, and once you know the birds, or you see for me, the mullions flying across, or the whales that are in season, it tells us about country. It informs us about country, so we know and we connect. But then it's, for us, a lot of our mob won't speak it because they're still feared. And we need to, this gives us an opportunity, to be able to engage with our community members around that. Because I remember in January when I went to a function and an elder walked in and language was alive and living, and she just went blank and said, sorry, I have to go. And so I went and asked her and I said, Aunt, what's happened? She said, I don't know language, I can't stay there in that space. So the impact is still impacting upon our people, but what we need to do is to create a safe space.
And we were lucky for those people that went to do those recordings with our elders, whether it was the universities or whatever, because, it was, they didn't want language around, obviously, but, for our elders to still share that language with those university students or whatever, to feel that they're in a safe place to share that language. And now we get to have the language. So they knew it was coming this way.
Yeah, because like back home in Armidale, we have an elders group. So we taught a language group like probably 2 weeks ago. And before I even started, they said, I can't even speak English. And I was like, had a little giggle. I was like, I know. She's like, I'm a bit old for this. And I was like, yeah, but you can always start somewhere. And they was very scared about starting it as well. They're like, I don't know this, I've never learned it before. I said, it's all good, I'm not going to be like, you need to do this. I did it really nice and gentle on them, and they went through the whole class, and by the end of it, I was very grateful and, proud of themselves too.
I think too what Sharnae said, one of the biggest things growing up, which deters a lot of people away from learning language, is getting the pronunciations right, or, so I think, I always teach, if I can understand you or you can understand me, then that's good enough. We'll get there one day, but if you can't do this, that's okay. And I think especially with the old fellas, saying they can't speak English properly as it is, let alone language. So to let them, they might not want to say it the first time you teach, but give them a few goes, and if they do say it slightly different, that's okay. Let them go. And I think with the kids too, let them go. They will say it how they want to, but the just an important thing of being the teacher is keep saying it the way that it's meant to be said, but don't pull them up, because otherwise, once you tell them no, or once you tell them off, that's it. You've lost them.
It's just like speaking English. When your kid's growing up and they say potato, but they might say da da da. It's just the same thing as learning.
Well, there's
English.
Variations in English around the world. Got English, Canadian, New Zealand, American. It's all English, but it's variations. No different to, Northern Wiradjuri up around Gilgandra is influenced by the Gomeroi language, And Walewan language, where you go all the way down to Albury, which is southern Wiradjuri, it's influenced by the mob down there, so there's slight variations even though it's all Wiradjuri. Same as Muruwarri, and I'm sure it's probably same in your fellows' languages that are bordering other language groups.
Yeah.
I guess with language and for us with dancing, it's how do we connect it, like the mums into dancing? And that's just like, well, the kids are dancing, what about the parents?
Yeah.
You know, how are the parents learning? And that's how we're learning the language, is the movements. You know, we're going to do like the billabang, the eagle. So let's do the move for the eagle. So they're understanding movement and language, and that's, you know, through song and dance. So, and getting them to have that ownership. Then I'll teach my children how to do this dance now.
And like
so I think song and dance is really important with our language as well.
And it goes vice versa too, because the kids are the best ones. They come on, mum, come on, dad. Bring their mum.
they'll drag them up.
They do.
And I love saying that as well. And so and again, seeing the kids being the leaders of the culture, and they can do it as a 7-year-old, then they're going to just put us to shame, and that's what we want. You know, we want them to be bigger and better. And going on before, we always try and tell people when we're doing a lesson or something that we like to go around and introduce ourselves, and I don't know my tribe, I don't know my totem. And what we always tell people is that it's not your fault. You know, this was a design plan, like simulation, this was designed so they couldn't know your language, your totem, your families. And you know, every black folk I've ever met, I know we're all stubborn. So let's use that stubborn for goodness and go, I can't speak my language, watch me. You know, you can't dance, watch this then.
No. And like you were saying with the dancing and stuff, like that's like one of the best ways to teach language, because it's more active and it's not so much like you're sitting in a classroom reading off a board or anything. Like you're moving, active, the kids are having fun. Like the best way to do it is.
Fully agree.
Yeah,
no, I agree. And it's actually been proven around not only Aboriginal language but around the world. Learning language through dance and make it fun is very successful, as opposed to just sitting in the front of a classroom and in a very artificial situation.
And I guess that's why I mentioned it earlier around language has a place. And is it the place in terms of the schooling structure to be able to be taught exactly that Western way of teaching, as opposed to singing and dancing and through the art? Like there's so much knowledge that's out there and interwoven in terms of who we are and our identity and where we come from, and then knowing country. And like, so what does the theme mean to you, Nancy, in terms of, you know, the connecting, the speaking and the flying? What?
Yeah, I guess for me it's, you know, when I do engage with, whether it's youth or community, we're always on country. So for me it's like I prefer to be on country. Be out of the school environment. Yeah, we are on country, but be out of the school environment, because they're always looking at the school, you know. It's like come out and actually look, you know, observe, watch the whales go past, watch the sea turtles. Let's go down and create something on the sand with the sea turtles, the whales. Listen, look at the land markings around, you know, what can you see, what mountain can you see, where's the river come out, you know, what's the waves or the wind today, because we're on sea country. You know, it's also getting the kids to understand, you know, if it's a windy day today, it's about being safe on country. Where's a safe place for us to go and learn? You know, so it's learning about being safe on country if we're on sea country, learning about just visualise listening, deep listening, and from that, that's where we get our song and our dance. So for instance, we went out one day, we took a group of girls out and there was 3 koalas in the tree. And so, when, you know, it was really strange because we never see 3 of them in the same tree. So the kids got that connection. They were like, well, how can we go back and tell that story of that day? So we went and put that in song and dance, you know, with language and song and dance. But that was a real connection, you know, that was a real connection to country. And so that's how we do it. Me, preferably, I'd like them to be out on country rather than in a classroom environment.
Seeing 3 koalas in a tree could really create a nice dance or story just about that. Which
already have,
I like
so,
that.
yeah, we've had that, and we've brought that, you know, we've shared that that song. We've even had danced that here at Dance Rights in Sydney. So it's gone nationwide just from a connection to country.
That's really, really important, because especially for us ones that are making song and dance, I think a lot of people will go, oh, I don't have that at that song and dance or that story, we can't do it. It's
Yep.
like the old
It's their
people
own-
were always making song and dance, and we can still make song and dance today.
Yep,
you know?
and it's their connection, and it's something that they can share. Then it's from their language now. They're learning language, their connection to country.
Yeah,
and that's
in the future, exactly. That song going
This
like
is
that was my uncle. He seen that. He was my auntie.
He was
She was
there
there
that
when
day.
they seen that one. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
And that's what those kids are going to remember. They were a part of creating that dance and that story. Like, yeah, they would have loved that at dance
Yeah.
rides. Yeah.
So, and also we had one with like the dolphins one day. We had a group of like 40 of our Koori girls come out in country, and these dolphins were hanging in all day.
Yeah.
And I was in the bay, and it was just like playing up and, you know, jumping out, and I was there for like an hour or two. And then was like, let's go around to see the sea turtles now. So we went around a different part of the coast, and the dolphins came down. And so they followed us down. They hung right there with us until we left, and it was like, that was a connection.
Yeah.
You know, so we went and did a song and dance about the dolphins.
Yeah.
So it's like connecting to country is where the language comes from, and it's where we can, for us in song and dance, is where we can create those song lines for our kids. You know.
And the fact that it happened too.
Yes,
Like,
and it was a
it's not
real
made
connection,
up.
and
Yeah.
it's their connection, it's their song, and it's in our own way, in our own language,
Yeah.
in our language.
Yeah.
Very much so. So how do we engage people who aren't connected as much as we are? How do you bring them on the journey?
I think everyone has their own journey and their own style, so it's not just doing it. You can't just blanket it and go, this is how we teach it, and if you can't learn it this way, then it's your fault, you know. It always goes back on the teacher. Then the teacher has to find the best way to teach the teaching, and so I think realising that there's not one way for everyone. Everyone has their own styles of learning, and always being encouraging and supporting. Because we said, like, so there's a lot of that trauma, there's that shame and embarrassment. To let them know, like, they didn't say that word properly, so, oh, nearly got it, instead of, that was wrong.
Exactly.
Oh, so nearly got it there.
Yeah.
And so always supporting and encouraging is really important, because everyone's, they're waiting just to go, no, I'm not doing it now. And they're looking for that sometimes excuse to go, no, well, I can't do it. And so he's like, no, come back in, you can do it, try again. And having fun as well, because it's such for a lot of people, that trauma, that shame, that anger, it's all sitting under the surface. And you want to make it a nice, safe place for everyone, and everyone needs different things to have that safe space.
And I think our language is growing, like, you know, even, you know, the last probably 10 years, the movement of language is growing significantly in all of our communities. So, you know, people will find their own way in how they're connecting to language, how they're connecting to themselves. Because language and country, culture, you know, it's just a connection to yourself, really, isn't it?
I know in each of our communities we've been teaching language sporadically across New South Wales, but I can say we're very fortunate that the Aboriginal Languages Trust was established to help strengthen, not only through funding but also just through that particular language week once a year. But we're very fortunate in New South Wales, because I'll tell you what, across Australia and across the world, a lot of Indigenous languages don't have that particular statutory body to help support a language. So we're very fortunate in the last 5-6 years to have a body supporting all the languages in New South Wales.
I think too, like, you know, language is who I am, it's my identity. So when I teach language, I'm sharing a bit of myself every time I do a language class or, you know, speaking language in front of mobs. So I think also too, as language teachers, we need to, you know, whether it's introduce ourselves or tell our language journey to show mob and elders, like, everyone's on their own journey, like, you know, but we all get there someday, I think, and to really relate with them, and it might make it a bit easier, you know, for them, and a bit more comfortable for them to learn.
I really liked what you've said, the comment about not discouraging if someone pronounces it slightly different, because a great teaching approach and practice is just about, you know, being sort of slightly humorous, say, oh, go on, keep going, you almost got it there. I really like that statement, because I have been in language situations over the years, not so much recently, but where the teacher would just say that, you know, that's not right, you said that wrong, and then really discourages a learner, regardless of age, to not come back to the class.
Yeah.
I really like that approach, yeah.
'Cause I got taught the opposite way.
Okay, hard school of hard.
But then that was my point, and
okay.
then that was that strictness that he had.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can't go in. But that's
That's because he's related to you. But
he's a ladder
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
I can't go into schools
Yeah.
where like, kids don't know me. Go,
Yeah.
you say it like that.
And like I think it's important to get to the kids' levels as well. Like you know, with teachers, you know, whatever you're teaching, you got to make sure you're getting to their level and understand where they're coming from, and like how they feel. Yeah, like they're new to it. Like you can't just be hard on them. Like, yeah, got to get to the kids' levels to help.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it's so good, you know, like, and when you were saying earlier, like sitting out, because they're not only learning language, like, you know, everyone likes to put them in their boxes, what they are, but they're all connected, like song, dance, you know, and then there is those lessons in there too, like, yes, they're sitting there learning about this and that, but they're also learning about the weather, like what is the wind doing, you know, what is that telling us? It's not just language, it's not just culture, it's not just stories, you know, they're all together, they're all connected, and they all come back to us. Yeah.
One of my strengths, I'm a practicing artist, not only an Aboriginal artist, but an artist. So I use art to incorporate language. So I teach art and language together. In my mind, I'm a brilliant dancer and singer, but in reality, it's probably slightly different. So it's really nice to hear, and I know it does. I know it effectively works, incorporating dance and song to teach and reinforce language. I wish I could sing and dance better. I try, but my strength is in using art.
And
my
that's
strength
why,
using art to reinforce language.
yeah. And that's why it's important for the you know, how we're teaching it in multiple kind of platforms or multiple kind of. But it's all culture, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's art, whether it's connection to country, it's us as our identity of who we are, you know. And our connection, like you said, we're one with country, so we're one with language, we're one with
I
all.
think as Aboriginal people too, we think it's our responsibility to be everything, to be a dancer, to be an artist, to be a expert on bush tucker and all those things. But when we think back to it, it was never like that, you know, like, and I think that's the Western way of thinking. Oh, well, you're Aboriginal, you should know bush tucker, you should know this, and you should know tools and weapons, but they don't understand too that there is the women's business and there is the men's business, or, you know, things like that, or those things you have to earn your place to be called that, or, you know, I think, and as Aboriginal people, I think we do forget that too, and sometimes we might look at it, well, I don't know this, but we don't look at how much knowledge we do have, and it's probably like the old fellas, you know, we were saying they know the fishing, but they don't look at themselves as a knowledge holder.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that comes from trying like conforming to the Western system.
Yeah.
You know, we need to remember that this is our culture and we need to teach it our way, you know.
Exactly.
And as soon as we do try to conform to that, you know, that other style, that's when all these dramas come out, you know. But when we go into schools, as in, like, we tell the kids, like, don't call me sir, call me uncle if you want. If you don't want to call me uncle, call me brah. Like, and then we come in more responsibilities and say, I'm going to teacher, but also when that lad's getting in trouble, having an argument with the teacher, I'm going to go, what's the matter, brother? Like, what's happening? So, you know, we wear always multiple hats, but I don't think, you're not always just wearing one hat. You have to do different stuff for different people. But yeah.
Last weekend I had an interesting situation, little story I'll share quickly. I'd be interested to hear if you had similar situations. I started in Wiradjuri country, Dubbo, and I saw emus and I knew the Wiradjuri word for emu. Then I once went through to wild Gomeroi country and I knew Dainghatti was emu. And then I drove to Muruwarri, which is Muruwarri, Nimba country, and I know the word for emu. And in my mind, of course, it's all jumbled up in my mind. I had to think about it. I clicked and I wanted to use the word from the animals that I saw in different three language groups. And I know probably most of you are probably bilingual or know some language from other countries. So it's nice when you go to different countries and you at least say hello to someone in a different language. Like I know a couple of words from this country where we are in Sydney, and enough to say hello or goodbye or thank you.
Yeah.
So I always strive to learn some words from different language groups. I'm sure you are very similar.
Well, my 5-year-old grandson, can introduce himself in 4 different languages.
Nice.
5 languages, really.
Weapon.
He's a dancer, he's a singer, he's just created his own dance and shared it with his school while his dad and uncle sang it, and he taught it at his school, so he goes to the Freedom School in Coffs Harbour. But it reminded me that when he introduced himself, his name's Makiri. So Makiri means Echidna Ingatang. So then he'll tell you the other language groups, the different names when he introduced it and his name.
Yeah.
So but yet he can dance those songs as well. So when we travel country, you see language is everywhere. It's alive, you know.
It's an ecosystem.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an ecosystem.
That's so deadly. Yeah.
He's dancing again today, so they're dancing every day, so they just love it. And the dancing and the singing and the art that comes with it is just incredible to see it in our young people. And Rob, you identified a gap, really. I look at it as a gap in terms of we look at our elders and we look at our young people who are the custodians and bringing that up, but that gap is in the middle. How do we work to bridge that gap in terms of ensuring that people around your age and that are engaged in that language process? Yeah, connecting, flying, speaking. So what do we do?
We're very fortunate in Dubbo to have really supportive Aboriginal elder teachers at our local TAFE. So she made us feel really comfortable in our Wiradjuri language journey. And it's giving opportunities for people across off country. So some of the classes were taught online. People weren't always on country due to a number of reasons. I go back to a point I made earlier. When our children, our grandchildren are going through the school system and have access to language, that there has to be language, almost like homework, taken home by the young person for the family, and whether it's an evening class once or twice a week to help people that are around that particular child on their learning journey, because it makes it a lot easier to support a language if you've got people speaking it. And what I did years ago, which I'm sure it's been done, 30 years ago I used to laminate Muruwarri words and stick them around my kitchen for my son and to learn, so words for bread and so forth. So that was back 30 years ago when language wasn't really being supported as much, it's just really isolated. So other Muruwarri speakers would come to my house and kitchen, and then I'd have to be laminating little cards. This is a long time ago for them to stick up in their fridge. So I'd like to think I've played my part in teaching not only children but the grandparents and the uncles and aunties that came to my house who were Muruwarri people but didn't know much Muruwarri, which is a language that I've obviously one language I speak. But yeah, I've given a lot of thought, and I'm still going to be a strong advocate of ensuring people. Is 50 old?
No.
I'm 50. Is that middle age? I don't know. I'm an advocate of people my age. I know Cass probably a little bit older.
Next question.
Or a little bit younger.
I think I believe that just with the having something like a language week is an opportunity then for all of the community to engage. To have those opportunities for community to come together in different spaces. It's language week. What are we doing in our community this language week for all age groups? They see the kids doing it at the school, and even if they're invited into the school as well to come and do language, like even with our dance, we're asking, can the mums come? Like I said, can the mums come in and learn this dance? Rather than just letting the girls do it. Yeah. The mums come in this week and we can learn the dance with the mums, and the language is in the dance.
But I think too, with having the week, yes, we should have things in our own communities, our own language, on country, but I think to have a platform or something where we can share it, across, so that, our kids in our community in Paakantyi can see what North Coast mob are doing, or other mob, to get ideas or to share, because the big thing is, this is our stuff and we're not sharing, or we're not, coming in the last few years, it's been a big talk about borrowing words from other mobs, and I think that's one of the best things that we can do. And, they talk about that ecosystem, but that's not just with language, that's with stories, or dances or songs, you know, like because there have been a lot of dances or songs lost, or language or things like that, to share it with each other and to not feel like, oh, we own this language, or, you know, we can't share it because they're saltwater. Like, you know, like I think like we don't have saltwater animals out where we're from, so we would want to borrow saltwater animals, the words.
Well, the pelican, there's a lot of pelicans in Muruwarri, and people normally associate pelicans with the coasts, along the coast, which a lot of them do, but we as in Muruwarri people had to create up a word for pelican, because I know you coastal mob have very strong creation and dreaming stories related to pelicans. And
That lands us at a really good and interesting discussion around, I guess, the manufacturing of words or the borrowing of words, because our languages have always been there. They're constantly, it's a living, our language is a living language and a living culture. And why can't we borrow the words?
Yeah.
And, you know, and the other role is, what role does the linguist play in this as well? And, you know, I know that where was I think it might have been over in Gammea country, and they made the word for aeroplane, and I thought, wow, it is a big bird flying in the sky. Like, you know, like crazy. But when you start to think in language and you dream in language and you know language, it's really easy.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts? Are you happy to share and borrow from other?
Well, I think, you know, like me being far west New South Wales, really inland, if I, you know, back then, if they would have come and met and visited the coastal mob, they would have said to them, they wouldn't have seen a whale before, they would have said, what's that? So then whoever that coastal mob was, they would have said, this is what that is. So then when they went home, they would have explained what it is and said that word that they've got taught. So, you know, and then they would have taken that word back, and that would have been their word. Whenever they visit, they would use that word. So I think, like, I'm all for it to borrow and share.
Because I think it's, because again, like, it's new for us. It's not new for the country or new for language. You know, that's why ngura is said around Australia, marama, jina. There's certain words that are nearly universal. Yadaman, and they got that because they were shared. And how I like looking at it is, if you've got a river in your country, does that river start in your country and finish in your country? Or does it flow from someone else's? When that wind blows, that bunira, does it stop right at the boundary? Or does it keep going? Because when we get our cold winds, our cold winds come from the snowies and our hot winds come from the west. You know, that's not from our country, but it's all connected. And I think it's just going back to realising that the old people always shared. You know, one of my uncles, he's very strict. He goes, if you don't want to share, then go. Because what's the point? You know, we want to do this so we can look after each other, you know. So it's a vital thing we must do, and it's just realising that the old people in the country has always done it.
That's right. And Uncle Paulie Gordon always said, what is language if it can't be shared? And so I think, you know, we've just coming towards the end of our yarn up today. And I really want to thank each and every one of you individually for your strength, your knowledge, and your custodianship of language, and look forward to the future in terms of hearing further journeys that you bring, whether it's through the dancing and the whale songs and that you're creating, and you're dancing and your speakers.
I'm a great dancer.
I know you are.
My mind.
You've told us several
Just
times.
ask him.
I
Just
can't
ask him
wait to
again.
see it. And but you know, so Gabaninda and Madavar and Gabayarada. So from behalf of me, thank you.